And if you've ever felt that your portraits don't look quite right and you're not sure what's missing, then you're probably just making one or more of these 6 common mistakes. So in this video, I'm going to share exactly what you can do to fix these mistakes that are holding your work back. And once you see what's behind these, portrait photography is going to start to feel a whole lot easier for you. Today's video is also sponsored by the Professional Photographers of America, who are a great online resource for photographers, and I'll let you know more about them a little bit later on. First, you are not doing enough pre-production, and if you're currently unhappy with your work, I can almost guarantee that doing this is going to make a big difference at your next photo shoot. It may come as a surprise, but a lot of the work with portrait photography is done before you even arrive at a location and before you ever pick up your camera. Behind some of my favorite photo shoots is the time I spent to properly plan out all the details to set myself up for a successful shoot. So, how can you do this? A couple of ways you can do pre-production is by location scouting, which is when you get to the location you plan on shooting at a few days before the actual photo shoot date to find the best spots to shoot at. I use location scouting to plan out what backgrounds I want to use, I check out the natural light, I see the accessibility of the location, and I work out timing. Sometimes a location might have an earlier sunset time as the sun will be hidden behind buildings or a mountain, so you'll need to compensate for that if you plan on having light in your photos. After getting familiar with the location, the next important step is planning the outfits. Clothing choices can make or break a shoot, especially when you consider color theory. You want outfits that complement the location's colors, and if you're photographing more than one person, you want to make sure their outfits work together, as well as with the location, just to create a cohesive look. Finally, creating a call sheet with all the necessary details for your clients and team keeps the day organized and makes sure everyone arrives on time. So this will help the shoot run smoothly and guarantees you get the lighting and the shots you planned for. The second mistake you're making is not paying enough attention to the background of your photos, and I get it. Portrait photography can be overwhelming. Directing and posing your subject is a lot to think about, and sometimes we put all our focus on that we forget about the rest of the image. So let's head out on location because I want to share one of the main tips I use when choosing a location to shoot with. I know I shoot wide open a lot, so it looks like I like bokeh and I rely on it to take nice photos, but I don't think that's the case. Because, for example, if I have Matilda standing here, she's right in front of the trees and the background is just all bokeh and super blurry. But I kind of feel like that looks like a lazy shot because you're making the lens do all the work for you. What I prefer to do is ask my subject to stand in like a little crevice of the trees so they're more surrounded by the background. So instead of getting a shot there, I think I'll get Matilda to stand as close in there as possible. And as you can see, that just frames her so much nicer. We have some parts of the background that are in focus, we have some parts of the background that are semi out of focus, and then we have the beautiful bokeh out of focus area in the far background as well. But yeah, I just think that looks so much more interesting because instead of there just being a solid blurry background in the photo, this way there are a lot more interesting things to take a look at. So your eye might start at Matilda's face and then you'll kind of gaze down to the tree branches that are in focus. Then it'll swirl back up around where you look at the bokeh, and there's just like a nice time looking at the photo because there's so many more interesting little things to look at. The third is one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of photographers making when they're first starting out, but before we get to it, I want to let you know more about the sponsor of today's video, Professional Photographers of America. If you need help with creating photography contracts, pricing guides for your business, if you need access to legal resources or marketing templates, then PPA has you covered with all the tools and resources you need to succeed as a photographer. A huge benefit of being a PPA member is you can enjoy not having to worry about gear damage or loss with up to $15,000 worth of equipment insurance, as well as protection from damage, forced entry theft, and more. You'll also have access to events like Imaging USA to be able to connect and learn from other photographers. So whether you're a beginner or a pro, you can use the tools at PPA to improve your photography and grow your business. So if you want to join PPA, please make sure to use the link in my description to get a discount on your membership. So back to one of the biggest mistakes I see beginner photographers making, myself included, when I was first starting out, and it is about distance. I used to do this maybe because I was nervous to take photos of people, but if you find your photos are looking a bit boring, it's probably because you're not close enough to your subject. When I take a look back at some of my very early portraits, it's true, a lot of them were shot from a medium distance away, and I feel like I failed to capture the viewer's attention. That's not to say that you shouldn't add negative space to your photos, because that can make for a really striking effect as well, but you need to do that mindfully to make it work. So when I started learning to compose closer to my subject, I saw a huge improvement in my photography. With these closer compositions, you're now removing any distractions from your photo and having all the attention to the subject, which is what you want in a portrait. So tight cropped images are usually more intense and engaging as well. And this leads me to my next point, which is you're forgetting about composition. One of the fastest ways to make your portrait look awkward or make them feel like they're not quite working is cropping them in the wrong places. So let's take a look at these two photos, for example. Even though they look pretty similar, the one on the right is more visually pleasing. The main rule of thumb to keep in mind is to never crop an image at someone's joints. So on the left, I've cropped the image at my subject's knees, and the image on the right, I cropped them just above their knees instead. Let's take a look at some different cropping compositions you should be keeping in mind. So when taking close-up portraits, I recommend to either crop in extremely close to your subject's face if you're after like a dramatic or artistic shot. If you're trying to capture a more traditional headshot style image, then I find it's really flattering leaving in a hint of their shoulders as well, as it gives your portrait context and nice framing. When taking mid-length photos, there are a few things to look out for. You want to avoid cropping right at someone's elbows or wrists, so to avoid this, you can shoot in portrait orientation or ask your subject to do some creative posing with their arms up or crossed to be able to get them in the frame. You also want to avoid cropping right through someone's stomach. You should crop either right below or right above it instead for a more flattering composition. Finally, for full body shots, make sure to never crop your photos at someone's ankle or even through their calves, as this can make them look very short. If you are getting a slightly closer up full body shot, then I also prefer to crop just above the person's knees, as I showed you in the first example. But you know me, all rules are meant to be broken. You will see my photos sometimes have slightly cropped out body parts, and I like to do this on purpose sometimes. The reason for this is to add tension to my images and to purposely make them feel a little bit awkward to balance out too many pretty elements in the frame so it has a nice balance. Another tip that really helped improve my photography is working on my communication. So learning how to share with the team what I want before a shoot and how to direct my subjects while taking photos. This is something that I think is really hard to just learn overnight. You might be a natural at it, but some of us, including me, are introverted. So don't get too frustrated if you find giving direction to your subject is difficult. I think it's important to just practice and improve a little bit at every shoot you do. Eventually, it will feel like second nature. There are some obvious things you can do, like having a call sheet and a mood board. Communication is also extremely important during the photo shoot. So you see me doing this all the time in my photo shoot behind the scene videos, and it's something I want you to try doing more of as well. So a few easy prompts of communication you can start off with are when you're telling your subject to sit or stand somewhere, describe to them what kind of photo you're envisioning there. I'm always pointing out random trees and leaves to shoot against, and to a non-photographer's eye, it might look like a really unremarkable location because they don't have your vision. So you can tell them, let's go here and get a dreamy shot. This is going to make a really nice soft background. Or you can also get them into position, take a test shot, and show them what it looks like. I feel like once they see that first shot, they understand what you're going for, and you'll both be able to work together to get the best shots. Something else you can do is give positive feedback while you're shooting, and this one is super easy to do because you don't really need to think about it. Just let your client know that they look good, or you liked a certain pose they just did, or encourage them that the whole scene is looking really beautiful, just to get them excited for the photos. Last but not least is you are not practicing enough. If you are only picking up your camera when you have a client shoot lined up or something planned with something, then you're probably not using your camera enough. And I cannot emphasize how good it is for you to just pick up your camera and go out and shoot. You might think, but I don't have any models or people I can shoot with. Well, the good thing about practice is that you don't necessarily need to be shooting in your particular style of photography in order to improve. Shooting anything and everything helps, and it can actually be really good for you to do different genres of photography. So going for a photo walk in your neighborhood to photograph anything you come across, like street signs or cats, trees, plants, it can lead you to finding new locations that you can take future clients to. Shooting street photography in a city might inspire you with different composition ideas. Even if taking photos in a different genre doesn't inspire anything for portraits, it at the very least gets you to spend time strengthening your creative muscles and spending time with your camera. This means you get to know how to use your camera better, things like changing your camera settings, maybe your focus point and things like that. So you don't have to think about these things so much at your next portrait session. And instead, you can spend more time just being creative and directing your subjects. So let me know which one you found the most helpful, and be sure to use the link in my description to check out PPA for all those photography benefits. As always, thank you so much for watching. I make new videos every single week, so I'll see you all next time. Bye.